Good morning, monsters, and welcome to Monsters on the Edge on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host, Barnaby, and we have an awesome guest on today's show. I can't wait to talk all Bigfoot and the North American Wood Ape Conservancy and all of his many years of research coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, guys, if you're not familiar with myself and what we do, I encourage everybody to go on over to Wisconsin Caps on YouTube and check us out. Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Bigfoot, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Want even more? Check out our podcasts. Whispers from the Dark is the official podcast of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society and brings you interviews with the top names in the field of paranormal to cryptids and more. Hear witnesses' accounts and go in-depth with the CAPS team to hear more about our ongoing research. Are you more into cryptids? Find links to our all-cryptid show, Monsters on the Edge, on the Untold Radio Network. If you're into spooky, subscribe now and you won't miss a minute of our brand new series coming soon, Spirits of Macville. Follow along as we uncover the haunted history dating back to 1877 of a very well-known location you may have never guessed would be haunted. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a minute. That's right, guys. We got all kinds of information and documentaries and stuff over there at wisconsincaps.com. And if you want even more, head on over to Paraflix. You have the On the Trail of Undiscovered Beasts Season 1. It's all about Bigfoot activity in Wisconsin. You can use promo code CAPS10 to get 10% off your first 3 months, and it's only $3.99 a month. It is the Netflix of the paranormal. That's Paraflix streaming service, and we have a show on there as well. If you want even more, you want to show your support for everything Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, you can head on over to our website, wisconsincaps.com. Click on Shop Our Store. There you can find all kinds of merchandise with our logos on, and if it doesn't have our logo on, you can slap a sticker of it on there and show your support that way. And while you're online, make sure you head on over to all of our social media platforms. You can find us on Patreon, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and WI Caps on Instagram. If you guys want to see us in person this coming Friday, I will be at the Kenosha Public Library in Wisconsin, giving an introduction to cryptozoology, talking all things cryptid and creatures over there. I think it starts at 6:30. Head on over to their website. It's the South Branch website, and you can get all the information. And then, guys, we are going to be at the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference. It is Saturday, October 14th at the Irish Cultural and Heritage Center in Milwaukee. And that's Milwaukee, Wisconsin, MilwaukeeParacon.com. And on Sunday, October 15th, we will also be doing a Bigfoot hike in the Milwaukee area. You can find tickets for that as well at MilwaukeeParacon.com. And then in November 18th and 19th, we are going to be at CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky. And that wraps it up. It's been a very busy year for us, and these are the last couple of events that we got coming up, so it's going to be pretty exciting. If you want to show your support for all things Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, my guest on today's show is none other than Bob Strain. He is the co-founder of and on the board of directors of the Alliance of Independent Bigfoot Researchers. Along with Kathy, his wife, he produced the Let's Talk Bigfoot podcast. He has also been on MonsterQuest Bigfoot. Bob has also spoken at many conferences, including the 50th celebration of the Patterson-Gimlin Film in Eureka, California in 2017, and he is a member investigator of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. And without any further ado, please welcome to the show, Bob Strain. Hello, Bob.
Hey, Barnaby, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Good to have you here. For those of my listeners, we had your wife, Kathy, on a couple weeks ago. That was a great interview as well. If you guys haven't checked that out, I highly suggest that you do that. So you have been doing this for quite a long time. And so what got you into this to begin with?
Well, I kind of got into it by accident, I guess. It was when I was 18 years old. I just graduated high school. My dad and I were both big hunters, and we went on a big game hunting trip up to Idaho. And in October, November 1975. And I had a couple of experiences up there that kind of stuck with me for years and years. Unexplained happenings. I saw a creature that at first I thought was a bear, and then it stood up on 2 legs and walked off. And then a couple of days later, saw something belly crawling across a roadway. And we had a guy follow it for a little ways, and he described it as tall as a man on horseback, but looked like he was wearing a fur coat with a hood pulled up over his head. And so these occurrences, these happenings kind of bug me. You know, I really didn't know anything out from West Texas. I didn't know a whole lot about Bigfoot. And for years and years, there were things that I just couldn't reconcile in my brain what this was. And then the advent of the for younger listeners, the internet hasn't always been around, and I'm from the days when it wasn't, and personal computers weren't always a thing as well. Then I got into the internet, came on the computers and all that, and I started just sort of surfing the internet and found a bunch of Bigfoot stories, sighting reports, and I started making some correlations of what had happened to me, and I figured that was the only thing that it could have been. And then coming upon that realization, there are other occurrences, experiences that I had in my life. Well, with my dad as well, while we were deer hunting, both in the Trinity Wilderness area in Northern California and up here in the Sierras, not far from where I live right now. With many things, that it could have only have been Bigfoot, what we call the wood ape, and that's a term that we've coined. Well, actually, it's a local colloquialism that we adopted for our group. And you know, through being interested in that, I met my wife Kathy at the Willow Creek Symposium in 2003 International Bigfoot Conference, and it just sort of happened from there. It's been kind of a wild journey. because we were kind of into looking for Bigfoot before it was cool. And, we really hadn't have any outside support whatsoever. So it's been a journey. I mean, it really has. And one that kind of, it's kind of like I tell people, like a lot of people get into this and go and believe in Bigfoot and then go out looking for it. And me, on the other hand, Bigfoot found me and I didn't know what it was. And my journey has been just to try to figure out what it was that I had experienced. So that's how I got to where I am now.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think that's, for a lot of the people, that's kind of sometimes how it happens, for people who haven't stumbled on it on, nowadays, all the TV shows and stuff like that, and the YouTube channels and TikTok and whatever, for the people that the younger or the older generation had those experiences before, they ever knew what this thing was, and then had to find out what it was,
Right.
So when you first started out, I know we're going to get into all kinds of stuff, but while you're talking here, I thought of this question here is, when you started Bigfooting, was there anybody that, like, who did you start going out into the woods with? Because there's a lot of like older researchers and stuff out there that, um, just were the pioneers of this industry. Did you ever get to work with any of them?
Well, I mean, yeah, I did early on. I never really went out looking for this creature prior to 2003, which is when I met my wife, and she was basically the one that the first expedition or trip excursion going out looking specifically for Bigfoot was, in 2003, in November 2003. So it's been about, 20 years. Prior to that, I was on a forums called the Bigfoot forums that Brian Brown had started in 2002, and I was one of the first members. And I wasn't even sure that what I experienced was Bigfoot at that time. And so a group of us from that forums got together and made the journey and went to the conference, the 3-day conference, and then visited the film site, the PG film site, on that trip. And that's kind of got what got me hooked onto that. And I, of course, all the big names were at the conference, John Green and Bob Gimlin, and I met them there at that conference, and of course down at the film site. Later on, I got Kathy was involved with the BFRO, and so she got me involved with the BFRO, and we went on a couple of the original first expeditions that Matt had put on in Northern California. So went to the Redwoods in 2004. With got the Bigfoot with Bob Gimlin, hang out with him, and that was really cool. Then again in the next year the same year, 2004, up in the Washington Peninsula, and so Bob Gimlin was on that trip for a week as well. He's probably the only real big name that I was, but he was totally into it. Let me tell you what, the people that think that Bob's just making this up, and well, he believes it. Let me tell you what, I mean, there's no way after you spend some time with that man that you realize that there's no way that he could be that enthusiastic and sit out there. And I'm not joking. Just not hyperbole. 4:00 in the morning in the pouring rain, in the Olympic Peninsula, sitting in the dark with Bob Gimlin. We're all camoed up and we're in rain gear and we're sitting in the bushes at 4 a.m. Yeah, it's freezing cold, and we're looking for Bigfoot. And Bob Gimlin is right there, and he is just as excited as a child. There's no way. I mean, there's no way. This is not a put on. He believes it, and so I gained a great deal of insight, into the Bigfoot world through having conversations with him and listening to his stories. And from there, being in the BFRO, I was able to take a lot of one of the best things that the BFRO has going for it is that it is a very large presence on the internet, and a lot of people submit sighting reports. And so, being one of the California investigators, along with Kathy, I was able to contact a lot of recent witnesses and then visit places that that had sightings, and speak with witnesses both on the phone and in person, in a lot of the areas that I was very familiar with anyway through my own, I was a big hunter, deer hunting, and so, an outdoorsman. So, I knew these areas, and and so basically, the majority of my early outings were following up on Bigfoot reports, sighting reports, in Northern California. So I gained a great deal of insight, not only into the habits and the locations of possible probable Bigfoot habitat, but also the witnesses and in the human element involved in it as well. So, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it really has.
Mhm. That's amazing. I'm sure you have a lot of stories as far as just like interviewing these people. When you're talking about Bob Gimlin's devotion and stuff to this, when you hear these actual witness testimonies, you can feel their sighting through their stories. The people who have actually had these encounters, that it actually very deep down affected them. You've had a lot of experience with that?
Oh, absolutely. And let me share a recent one with you. Um, and it's the report is I'm still working on the report and getting it. We're going to get it up on our website at the NAWAC, the North American Wood Apes Conservancy. We have a website, the woodape.org. That's woodape.org. And we had a sighting an experience reported to us, submitted to us, that was like 40 years old. And I like those as well, because you can glean a lot of information, a lot of behavioral information from that as well. And um, this was submitted by an elderly woman. She was in her 80s. She still is. Um, and they lived in an extremely rural area of California, and very rural, one that an area that that I am familiar with, because I used to own property just within a couple of miles of the location that this experience happened. And they had a little cabin, and it was almost off the grid. It was at the very end of the electrical line. And so the guy worked in construction up there, and their teenage son lived, or basically slept, in a little trailer, a little camp trailer that they had next to their cabin there. And one night he went out about 9, 10 o'clock to go to bed, and was just screaming his brains out. And the dad ran out there with his 357, and he found this creature, Bigfoot, was standing behind a tree next to the trailer. And the kid screamed and tried to get in the trailer, and the Bigfoot grabbed the door, and he got in the trailer, and he was trying to close the door, and the Bigfoot was trying to pull the door off, and then also reached in through the little opening, the little air vent on top of the camp trailer, and was trying to grab him, reaching down through the hole and trying to grab him. And dad came out and fired 2 rounds and shot the creature, and it ran off screaming. And mom was in the house, and so she witnessed this from the house. Now the trailer was only about 30 feet away, so it was pretty close, but it was dark, and she saw it running on 2 legs across the road. She submitted the report, said that the son would be willing to talk about it, and I've been trying for 6 months to talk to him, and evidently it was as per mom, extremely traumatic experience for this guy, and had trouble dealing with it for many, many, many years. And so he's still not willing to. I'm not giving up hope. I think that one day, and I keep every couple of weeks, I'll send him a text, and um, he's acknowledged that he would like to one day talk about it, but evidently he's not ready yet. And so, it's I can understand how it can be, something like that can be extremely, traumatic. According to the mother, that wasn't the only occurrence that happened up there. That they had a friend that lived up behind them, about a mile up the hill, and was completely off the grid, no phone and no electricity, and nobody had heard from this person in a couple of days. And so they went up there to check on her, and she was in a trailer. They had a little camp trailer up there. Again, her boyfriend worked in construction as well, and had been gone for a couple of days. And they went and checked on her, and they found that the trailer was completely torn up and full of bullet holes. But all the bullet holes were coming from the inside of the trailer facing outward. And she was in the fetal position under the bed, and in an extreme state of shock. And so, this man that I'm trying to talk to now is the one that went up there and found her there. And so he has a great deal of information, that I would really like to get out of him, because like I say, I had an experience. I own property there, and it's rural. It was undeveloped property, and I went up there in my truck and camper, and I had a sighting, what I think was a sighting earlier that day. I thought it was, a buffalo. I mean, it was brand new to the area. I didn't know that much about it, and high desert, and but there's some mountains, with with a lot of trees. And that's the area that I was in. And I thought like I say, I thought it was a buffalo in the brush. And I tried moving around to try to see. And every time I would move, it would move further. But it was enormous. Later that night, I'm in the camper, and I had a 120-pound Malamute dog with me in my camper, and laying there in bed. And I had the tailgate down on my truck. The back end of my truck just went, just sunk like a foot, and bottomed out. And my dog looked up at me like, "What the heck?" And he wouldn't. I mean, I would looked out the door, and I didn't see anything. I'm not saying that was Bigfoot, but something extremely heavy pushed down on the back of my tailgate. And I went outside and looked around, and I couldn't see anything. I mean, I don't know. I've dealt with bears before, and generally they'll like, try, and they're hard to run off. They're not, they're like big and bad. So, there's a huge human element to this that really interests me, as well. So, those are the kinds of things that really interest me. I mean, I've heard from. Sorry if I go off on a tangent here. I've heard from, talk to highway patrol officers that and they are no nonsense, and probably 4 that I've talked to have told me, "Look, I'll tell you what I experienced. I'll tell you what I saw, but I don't want my name being used. And after I tell you this, don't ever call me again." It's like, I'm saying, but you contacted us, you sent in the report. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who you were. I just wanted to confirm what I saw, excuse me, and discuss it. And it's been, quite huge in their lives. One of them, and I wish I wish I could get more information from this guy, but he was fishing with his buddies and down in a rural river just outside of Reno, and they came walking back from their fishing spot. They came down this trail, and they said a bear was blocking the trail, and it was like in the bushes rooting around, and they're like, oh, hey bear, get out of here, hey bear, and they're throwing rocks at it, and one of them hit it with a rock, and it stood up, and it was about 8 feet tall, and it just cut out, put its head back and cut out with a scream that made their blood run cold. And these are cops, and they turned and they ran back, and they waited, and they dug their pistols out of their backpacks and came back, and the thing was gone, you know. But he said, I don't want, I'm not, you can't use my name. I don't want, not even my wife. He hadn't even told his wife. He just wanted to get it off his chest. And so these reports are very compelling to me. They really are. They went out of their way. These are CHP officers and Nevada Highway Patrol contact somebody anonymously. It's like a therapist, you know? So I was their therapist. So, you know, I mean, I get a great deal of that. I get a great deal of insight, you know, like I said, both not only into the creature, but also into the humans that see the creature. So that's really exciting to me.
That's fascinating. Those are all amazing stories. Thank you for sharing.
Oh,
You know, I think a lot of the people that are listening to this show on this network and stuff are probably pretty familiar with the topic of Bigfoot and all this stuff, obviously, or why are they listening? But for any of the skeptics that may be listening to this, you know, when they say over and over again, you know, why aren't there more people coming forward? Why aren't there more pictures? Why aren't there more stories? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And this right here, what you just said, is 100% why. Is because these encounters can sometimes be very traumatic. You know, I mean, if something was trying to pull me out of the camper, you know, and not letting me close the door and get to safety, I think that would probably be a very, very traumatic incidents in my
yeah,
life.
it would. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd shake you up.
And why would you want to talk about that? You know, why would you want to try and relive that and have that all come back? I mean, it's you know, to me, like, pretty obvious, like, that these things, if they're happening to these people and they're not coming forward because they don't want to mentally relive these stories. And
Mm,
it's awesome that you get to hear those stories, for one, you know, and there's other outlets, you know, like Sasquatch Chronicles and these other shows that people come on and you hear it over and over again, where people just say, like you said, it's just therapy. I don't want to be famous. I don't want my name out there. I just want, you know, to let this be known. And yeah, that's very cool.
yeah.
So I appreciate all your work out in California, you know, talking to these people, because, you know, from their standpoint, you know, I'm sure you hear it all the time, but thank you for what you do to let these people vent and have that release.
No, well, sure. No, absolutely. I'm glad to do it. As a matter of fact, it's exciting, you know, to me. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie. I'm not a huge athlete, but I'm a retired firefighter paramedic. And so I loved that job because it was always something new and challenging and exciting going on, and something, you know, that was not mundane at all to deal with in my life. And I enjoyed that. And this kind of helps fulfill a little bit of that, you know, adrenaline and intrigue and wonder, you know.
Uh, I want to pull up this comment here. It says, because you get attacked and the trauma and PTSD of it all and not being believed. I think that's another important thing is, you know, here you have these stories, and I don't want to perpetrate that, you know, Sasquatch is this big attack dog or something out in the woods and he's dangerous and stuff. But it can be. Any animal can be. And, you know, this is a very good point. If, you know, somebody's out in the woods or, you know, whatever the case may be, and they get attacked, they have these encounters. Not only do you have this emotional experience that, you know, is traumatizing you, but what happens when you tell somebody they don't believe you? That's even more emotionally harming to somebody, that, you know, they finally come forward, tell this story, and then they get laughed at. That is,
Absolutely.
it's terrible. So
yeah, it is. It's demoralizing, and it, and even if I think just the fear of that happening has suppressed, so many reports. I mean, I think it takes a step. It takes a step of bravery, a leap of faith to even report a sighting. Um, and so I feel for those people, and I think what helps put them at ease, uh, if if they ever talk to me, and if this gentleman that is that I've been trying to get a hold of regarding this report that I told you about,
mhm.
if he happens to see this, if you happen to see this, I'm here for you. You have my number. I'm going to send him a link to this show and his mother, and I'm here for you. I mean, I think it will help anybody that is seeing this, that is in the same situation. It will help you to talk this through. I think I help put people at ease, being that I have personal experiences myself, and is a lot of people make fun of, oh, you're not a believer, you're a knower, whatever, call it whatever you want. you know hey, if you got bit in the leg by a dog and you got a good look at the dog, you know that dogs exist, and somebody comes along and says there's no such thing as dogs, you're going to think, well, you're clearly a moron, you know because you know you at least don't even have the ability to have an open mind, to listen to someone else's experience. So, I mean, and that's a huge hurdle that we all face. It's not just people who witness these things, experience them, but also the people that believe in them, that haven't, and they look for it, and trying to convince somebody else. I'm not sure, how easy that is. In most cases, it's not possible. So it's an uphill battle that we all face, but we're all in the same community, in the same boat, as it were. And one day that's going to change. One day that'll change, and that's what we're working towards. Because um, I'm an animal lover, and I want to help protect these animals and to conserve them and their habitat as well. And that's our focus at the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, is that we are dedicated to proving the existence of the animal that known as Bigfoot, that we call, and everyone in that area calls, wood apes, and not only conserve them but their habitat, which is something that is often overlooked. And I got to give a shout out to my good friend, Cliff Barrickman, who I've known for many years. Met him in 2004 when Kathy and I um, had what we called Operation Odyssey, which it was like a little free weekend of open to the public. We've had a couple of those, to where we kind of teach people how to Bigfoot, what to look for and how to document evidence, and then how to go out and look for potential habitat, and try and locate these creatures. Give a shout out to Cliff, that he turned me on to. It's a government website. It's called Open Space, Loss of Open Space, .org, I think. In it documents, and this is from the U.S. government, from the federal government, and it says that we in North America, in the United States, are losing an average of 5,000 to 6,000 acres of open space per day. So it's over 1 million acres a year of open space that we're losing through development, and that's just loss of the open space. That doesn't include the fragmentation. Let's say you have uh, 10,000 acres, and you lose, you know 200 acres part of it, you think, oh, that's insignificant. But what if it's right down the middle? And now instead of having a 10,000 acre habitat, you have two 4,800 acre habitats, and you do that again, and you do that again, and you do that again. It's the fragmentation of habitat that is just as harmful to the wood ape population as as the sheer number of acres that are lost to development, lost to housing, to whatever, humans. It's human cause. So if we can prove the species real, then much of that will be retained. And it's not to say that humans can't live in harmony with Bigfoot, because we do right now. It's just the majority of the population doesn't know that, but they're going to know that. And you see that. I live up in the foothills here in California, and I see people that move up here and build a home and go, oh, man, I got a bear, and I got a mountain lion, and I got rattlesnakes. What am I supposed to do to get rid of them? And it's like, dude, you built in their yard. What do you expect? They've been here for thousands of years, and you come and set up camp right in the middle, and you go, oh, I didn't know. It's like, think, use your head. So, that's kind of what our focus, what we're trying to do, and help to educate the public and to raise awareness. We give educational presentations. We have members that go to elementary schools and speak at outdoor, cavellas and other things, other than the symposiums or the conferences that are very popular these days. But that wasn't always the case. In 2003 was one of the first Bigfoot conferences that had even existed, had ever happened, in the last 10 years. Prior to that, it was like, in Harrison Hot Springs, and Eric Beckjord goes up there and dresses like an alien and stands in the parking lot screaming obscenities at people. Well, no wonder Bigfooters got the bad rap of being crazy, because Eric Beckjord goes on. If nobody knows who he is, don't bother looking him up. Yeah, he unique individual that was probably not grounded in reality, but he went on David Letterman. And so here we have one of the first spokespersons, for a Bigfoot, is Eric Beckjord. And it's like, it's like we're doomed. We're doomed, but we're trying to change all that. And hopefully through our website and our presence there, that we're doing that, and the work that we're doing there as well.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk all about the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, and we're going to take a really quick break here for station identification, the Untold Radio Network. And if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and join our super chats and put our questions and comments that you'd like to see on the air here in all caps, and that'll stand out for me. And we'll be answering some of those when we come back here after this break.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, guys, we are back here with Bob Strain. He is a member of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy and a longtime Bigfoot researcher up there in California. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, please put them in the comments, and we'll get to that. So you're talking about some of the stuff that the North American Wood Ape Conservancy does. Can you tell us really quick, just a little bit about it? And I think most of my listeners and stuff are familiar with the main research area, if you will, Area X. But if you could just tell us really quick a little bit about that for the people that aren't familiar as well.
Okay, sure. Quick background. The North American Wood Apes Conservancy started out as the TBRC, the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. They were afterwards they renamed it to TBRC Conservancy instead of Center, and then that's when I joined, and in 2012, and then we changed the name to the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, rather because we wanted to get away from the connotation of Bigfoot, and it's and be it's Bigfoot is kind of has a lot of connotations to people, and it's more accurately we believe the creature to be an ape, and which it most likely is. I mean, we're apes, but Alton Higgins, who is the chairman emeritus for the organization, has been into researching this for a long time. And through some contacts of his in the Oklahoma area and meeting people, he came across the area that basically that we operate in today, and became a member of the TBRC. And they had field operations in 3 different areas: Area X, Area Y, and Area Z. And the other 2, Y and Z, didn't pan out to be something that they could do long-term operations in, for whatever reasons. A lot of different logistical reasons. And so they ended up with this area, and that's why it's called Area X. It could have been Area 3 or whatever. But he visiting this area, he found footprints in the mud, and so that led to several year camera trap operation there. They called Operation Forest Vigil, and then started doing greater human presence in the area, and that's when they started having experiences having rocks thrown against the side of the cabin, screams and different vocalizations, and they started doing long-term operations there, a more sustained rather than just a weekend here and there. So in 2012, they invited Kathy and I, who weren't members of the group yet, to Oklahoma, and it's in southeast Oklahoma, and to visit the area and to give them, and we knew these guys. We knew all these guys through conferences. Kathy had spoke at several of their conferences in the past, and we were, some of them had been members of the BFRO, and we'd been out with them. So we knew them. We were friends with most of them, and we went there and had still haven't had experiences equivalent to what we had that week, our first week in May of 2012. Some amazing experiences and multiple sightings, visualization, vocalizations, a lot, just untold, untold. Yeah, you talk about the question a minute ago is about PTSD. Yeah, we came out of there with PTSD. Yeah, it was quite an exhilarating experience, and it will break lesser people's spirit and soul if you're not careful. So that's where we've been operating in that area for the past, it's going on 20 years. I guess how long the group and Alton has been in that area. So we know that there's a presence of apes there. We've had multiple sightings, and from that we have on our website woodape.org, we have a couple of papers that we've written, and one is the OPM, the Washita Project Monograph. And it's like 300 pages, but it's free. We don't charge for anything, and so that documents the first 4 years from 2012 through 16 or something, 15, something like that, of trying to chronicle everything, the experiences that we had there. We also have another paper that we put out. It's called the Tag 7 paper, where we took we've got a lot of brilliant members in our group. And one is a wildlife biologist that used radio tracking tags on different kinds of animals. And his idea was to use a radio tracking tag and try to somehow fix it to an animal. And we came up with a very small one that's intended for use, like they glue it to a turtle's back or something like that to track their movement. The battery lasts about 9 months, and the range is, depending on terrain, several miles on the radio signal. And so we devised a method, and this is all in our paper. It's all depicted, all the equipment that we use, the methods that we use, and everything regarding that. So this was tag number 7 that we had hanging, and it got activated, and we tracked it for several months until the battery went dead. And from that, we're able to get an idea of the seasonal range of this. And we go through all of the of how we figured that it most likely was a wood ape. So we go through all the different animals that it could have been, and why it probably wasn't any of those animals or birds. And so we got a really good idea of their range of this animal anyway. And so again, that's all on our website. You should, if you haven't, anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't, spend the time, go to the website, download those, and read them and see what you think. So that's and we're still continuing operations there now. And what we try to do is have a prolonged presence in the area. So our operations will be like 3 to 4 months long, and have a continuous human presence in the area, in that spot. They say if you want to see Bigfoot, you go deep and you stay a week. Well, we go deep and we stay 30 weeks. So, or whatever it is. And so we get a lot of interaction like that. And so we do that every summer, every year we have operations. And like I say, we still, and we'll continue until we prove that this, is a real animal, and prove it's a science.
Absolutely. You got a lot of information in there, and there's so much. I mean, we could do several episodes just on the whole Tag 7 project alone. And if anybody's not familiar with that, like you said, in the show notes of this episode is the link to the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, woodape.org, and you can go on there and check that all out. You guys also have a podcast, Apes Among Us. And right. As you see the title of the show, Wood Apes Among Us, I thought that was kind of a nice play on that.
That's good.
Thank you. But yeah, definitely go check that out. It is a very, if you're into the subject and the topics that we're talking about today, it is very science-based, very in-depth, talks about a lot of your audio recordings and stuff on there as well. And that's all on the website. It's a great resource for people interested in this. I have a question over here. It says, Bob, let me pull it up. I don't just want to read it to you. If you had to pick one area that you've been for investigations, which one would you pick? Where has been the favorite, most active spot that you've investigated?
Well, without a doubt, the most active spot is Area X, is Southeast Oklahoma. And the thing about Area X is not this one little area is not let me put it this way. There are many Area X's. Okay. It's just, you just have to find them. What we found from Tag 7 is that these family groups don't move all that far. They move around the neighborhood, as it were. They don't move from state to state, from what we found. So if they find a good habitat, they'll hang out there until it's no longer a good habitat, and they will only move as far as they need to move. So it's absolutely the most active. However, I'll tell you this, it is the most inhospitable to humans. That place, every single thing in that place is trying to kill you. It has, three, at least three or probably four different varieties of venomous snakes, and in abundance, by the way. Hawthorns, greenbrier, unstable rocks. The footing is absolutely treacherous. The heat and humidity are absolutely oppressive. It is not my favorite place to be. It is not at all. I like being in the Sierras because it's a much nicer, environment for me. um, Northwest California and the Redwoods is a very, very nice area to be. The Olympic Peninsula in Washington is a very good place to be as well. It has more rainfall than Area X does, but Area X has the greatest amount of rainfall of probably any place outside the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's incredible the amount of rain they get. If you ever watch the Weather Channel, it's like it's always raining in southeast Oklahoma, or tornadoes, just the way it's situated geographically. But in Washington, the vegetation is so thick, you could stand 10 feet off the side of the road and nobody would ever see you. I mean, there's ferns, trees, millions of thick. It's incredibly difficult to Bigfoot in that environment. So I think, what's pleasurable for you. Now if it has likely habitat, then it's going to have probably, likely habitat means, very few people and a great number of resources. And if you get that combination, then that's going to be a good place. And if you're going to go spend some time somewhere, might as well be pleasurable as far as I'm concerned. But when we go to Oklahoma, we know that we are going into, it's like being I did not serve in the Vietnam War, but I imagine it would be much like being in the Cambodian jungle. So if you like sweating and dodging snakes and spiders the size of your head, then Southeast Oklahoma is a place for you.
No, thank you. I don't mind the snakes or nothing, but spiders the size of my head.
Oh, and you walk through their webs. You know what I mean? I mean, that's so much fun. It's like, we see red eyes glowing out there, and we shine the light, and the red eyes are moving around. So you're like, let's go after it. And it's like, bam, 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 spider webs up. It's like trying to keep your composure, you're a Bigfoot hunter.
At that point, is it a spider web or a spider net now?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It's just like, nothing worse than full face. And those spiders, I mean, when you walk into one, you're just like, and they're harmless. I mean, they're not going to eat much of you, but it's like middle of the night, there's a spider on my face.
Oh, no, thank you.
So prepare yourself. Gird your loins.
This comment says, I like to look for Bigfoot at the beach. It's a lot nicer. I can work on my tan. No luck so far with any Bigfoot, but I did meet some nice hot chicks. I will keep trying.
and that's good too. And that's good too, because, but be careful, some of those Bigfoots and big chicks kind of, look a lot similar, depending on how long you've been on the beach. But I'll tell you, the beach can be a good area, especially on the West Coast, the Northwest Coast, anywhere from San Francisco all the way on up to Canada along the coast. Mm-hmm. And that can be a pretty, if you've never been to the California, Oregon, or Washington coast, it's rugged, man. I mean, it's not something, it's there. There's beaches along there, certainly, especially where the rivers are. But when the salmon run, and they've been seen down there trying to catch salmon at the mouth of rivers, and also clamming. I mean, Bobo was the one to talk to about Bigfooting on the beach, but there's lots of reports of Bigfoot seen on the beach, on the ocean. Yeah, so they're there too.
Absolutely. I mean, they all got to eat. They all got to have water and resources and stuff. So anywhere that you find that.
Yep.
Lee would like to know, she used to live in Oklahoma, and how about the Turner Falls area?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I grew up, like I said, I was born in raised in West Texas, and then grew up and went to high school and college in Dallas. So we used to go to Turner Falls from Dallas, for like a little summer weekend or something like that, me and my buddies. And that's a great area, I think, from that area. And Turner Falls is not that far from Dallas. There, especially east of there, all the way over to Texarkana. I mean, you get to Texarkana, and that's where the legend of Boggy Creek came from, just right outside Texarkana. Is where Falk, Arkansas is. So the Red River, Paris, Texas, north side of the river, all through there, a lot of reports in the Lake Texoma area on both sides, north and south. So all of that is great area. And for those people who are not familiar with that area, like I say, it gets a great deal of rainfall. So when you are driving through the country, and people think of Texas, flat open deserts, out in West Texas, that's true. You go out to Martha, I mean, it's flat, there are mountains, but it's desert, but not like that in Northeast Texas and Southeast Oklahoma. It's very lush, very thick, lots of creeks, a lot of water. It's a fantastic habitat. Beaver's Bend, they're building but Bigfoot is a big thing there in Southeast Oklahoma. It's Bigfoot everything down there. They got the Bigfoot Mart, the Bigfoot this, the Bigfoot that, and so anybody down there, if they don't have a story, they know someone who has a story.
Absolutely. Guys, we are almost out of time for this episode. We got a couple more comments here to get through. So if you do have any questions, get them in now so that we still have a little bit of time to get to them. Question: what does your data show to be the main food sources for the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, wood apes within Area X?
Well, we have found several of what we call nut crushing stations, and just we call it that for lack of anything better to call it. Big big rocks, boulders that are flat on top, fairly flat on top, that have piles of. There's a lot of walnut trees. That the Area X, and that's one of the great things about Southeast Oklahoma, is that it has a lot of nut-bearing hardwoods, and so there are lots and lots of nuts, walnuts, and we will find these walnuts. A big pile of broken shells on top of a rock with like a square, what we call the hammerstone, sitting on top of it. And so something has been cracking, wild walnuts out there and eating those. Other than that, for herbivorous or, animals that eat plants, it's everywhere. I mean, during the summertime, it is so thick. It is incredibly thick with vegetation down there. So there are all kinds of berries and then of course farms all around as well. And then rodents. I mean, galore. Squirrels, chipmunks, rats. That's why there's so many snakes, because there's so much to eat. It's a great habitat for everything. So, we think that that's one of their main protein sources, though, is the nuts. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to conserve the habitat is because especially in southeast Oklahoma, real quick, what they're doing is the big lumber companies are wiping out and clear cutting hardwood forest and then replanting with fast growing pine trees, for the paper, the cardboard industries, Amazon, and so they're losing that. Even though it's open space per se, it's now pine trees instead of walnut trees. So, the entire environment and habitat changes through that. That's part of what we want to, conserve.
Absolutely.
So.
It's called Monsters on the Edge, my show, because, as the forest becomes, human populated and, the urban sprawl and stuff, we're pushing further and further into these areas. And, we're no longer going into the deep, dark woods looking for these creatures of myth and legend, but they're in our backyards because our backyards are literally their house now. So,
yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You are a wealth of knowledge and so much information here. It's a great time having you.
It was my pleasure. Absolutely. And anytime. Feel free to contact me anytime. I can talk. So, hey, I can talk.
Awesome, man.
Sure.
So Bob, do you have any upcoming events, any speaking engagements, or any like online seminars or anything else that's coming up for people?
No, I don't. Kathy and I every year take part in the Bigfoot Music Festival up here in Twain Harte, California. So we're planning for a big time next week. This will be the 4th year that they've had the festival, and so we give a conference there, a short, 3-hour symposium. But next year, we plan on doing a sort of like a mini training camp to teach people and children how to look for evidence, how to document evidence, how to preserve evidence, track casting, hair collection, call blasting, all that kind of stuff. What we used to do called Operation Odyssey, we're going to do a similar, smaller version of that for the public at the conference. There was 4,000 people there this year, so we had a good time. Other than that, we don't have anything planned.
That's awesome. That's still something, man. That's something to look forward to. And do you have a website or anything where that information is going to be public? Like where people can...
No. We're not big on, and not to put down anybody who has big conferences and get out in the public eye and all that kind of stuff. We don't do that. We don't charge any money for anything that we do. But if you need more information, and you can contact us if you really need to through the NAWAC, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, at woodape.org. So check it out, and you can send a message if you need to get a hold of us, either Kathy or myself. If you're not friends with us on Facebook or whatever, then feel free to contact us there, and we will definitely get the message.
Awesome. And again, guys, for those of you who are more clickable, the woodape.org is in the show notes of this episode, so you can go ahead and just click it right there. It's there for you to follow and find. So
awesome.
Thank you so much for being my guest today on today's show, Bob.
Sure, Barnaby, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I had a great time, and be happy to do it again anytime.
Awesome. I think we have to have you come back and talk about your casting and a little bit about your Odyssey stuff. I think that'd be a cool episode.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Okay. I'll be in touch, man. Take care.
You bet. You too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that is our show for this week. The awesome Bob Strain. Again, North American Wood Ape Conservancy, woodape.org. And if you missed it, go back and check out one of my previous episodes. His wife, Kathy Strain, was on talking about Native American legends and the research that they've done with them. So if you're interested in that, you're going to love next week's episode. My guest next week is Allison Jornlin, and she is going to be on for Indigenous People Day. And we're going to be talking all about Indigenous people, legends, and lore here, and the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference, which is coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. And she'll tell you all about that as well. So that's our guest next week, Allison Jordlin. So stay tuned right back here next week, Monday morning at noon Central Time. And until then, guys, I'll see you on the edge.